breaking news.
All right, thanks for joining us for this breaking news update here online. We are expecting to hear from authorities searching for Grant Hardin. We've been following this story, of course, since Sunday. News conference as soon as the officials take the stage there, or that makeshift podium there in Calico Rock. Now the search for him is in its fourth day now. We're expecting to get an update from the teams who have been looking to track him down at any moment now. Here is the most recent mugshot that the prison took of Grant before his escape. On the right is the surveillance photo showing when Hardin walked out of the prison while being disguised as a corrections officer, and that was Sunday afternoon around 3 o'clock. Now the manhunt for Hardin now entering or in its fourth day. We are about to get an update on the search for him coming up in just a few moments. It's been happening through a lot of rain, a lot of fog, a lot of nasty conditions. Nearby communities like Calico Rock have been on high alert since that escape. The prison has been there since the early 90s and is a little over an hour drive to the east of Harrison. Now, his criminal history includes 2 convictions in Benton County, one for the deadly shooting of James Appleton in Gateway. Hardin also serving as police chief there before his arrest there in Gateway. He ultimately pled guilty to the murder and got a 30-year prison term. Now, DNA evidence that was collected during that murder investigation then linked him to the rape of a teacher in Rogers. Now, he got a separate sentence for that crime and was serving both of those prison terms at the North Central Unit when he escaped on Sunday. Now, that news conference is just about to get underway. We're expecting to hear from the Department of Corrections, those with the Department of Corrections, hopefully from the Izard County Sheriff's Office, Arkansas State Police. I'm assuming that they have gathered all of those who are involved in the search for him since Sunday will be there to answer questions. Rand Champion is the one from the Department of Corrections that sent us this alert that they were going to do this news conference there at 3 o'clock. The search in its fourth day, middle of its fourth day, still no sign of him anywhere. A lot of the town, as we mentioned, on high alert. A lot of the families that he has been in contact with also on high alert, with a little extra protection from the Benton County Sheriff's Office, also from the Pea Ridge Police Department, and for good reason. The search efforts have been lasting since Sunday. They have done car checks, as you can see here, and doing a lot of automobile checks. Main Street through downtown Calico Rock has become this police checkpoint, basically. Anybody that has gone through there, it is a main thoroughfare to get from Northwest Arkansas to Little Rock. So a lot of cars have been through there, and so they've done a lot of checks of those vehicles there. You see that sort of right there at that intersection, and that has forced some of the businesses to not be open, or at least business has slowed down quite a bit. We'll have much more about that as well coming up today on your 5 News at 4, 5, and 6. We're still waiting to hear from the Department of Corrections, presumably Arkansas State Police, and all the other different agencies that have been involved in this search. It has actually garnered some national attention. All the major networks have been in Calico Rock since yesterday, and I would assume they would be there at this news conference as well once we get information. The release that we got that announced this news conference didn't really say a lot that they had new information. I think they're just going to give us an update as to where the search has been taking place, where it is right now. We've been told about 4 minutes from now we'll get to that news conference, where the search is underway right now, and then at what point, if any, do they expand this search? And we're talking away from this area. Is it going to expand up into Missouri? Not that it already hasn't been. We have not been made aware of how far reaching this search is, at least on the ground, a ground search. We have not been told how far reaching that ground search is. Will it extend up into Missouri? Will it go farther south into Arkansas? Will it go into other states? Have they gotten any kind of information from other police departments around this area and even outside of this area? Or have they made contact with some police departments in and around this area and outside of this area as far as knowing anything about his whereabouts? We're hoping that that information will be given to us this afternoon, or at least someone will ask what the situation is with the actual search itself. And obviously it'll continue in this area since he has a lot of ties in this area, especially ties in Northwest Arkansas, having served with law enforcement in various capacities, not only in Fayetteville, but in other parts of Northwest Arkansas, still has ties in this area. So you wonder if he's still around here. At least that's the police, if that's what police are still thinking, or investigators are still thinking, or will they actually extend this search and move it to other locations in this entire region? Now, that's not to say that there isn't already a national search for Hardin. Not that he's probably not in about every system that there is, that police departments and law enforcement agencies have access to, just in case he is nowhere near this area. It's the ground search now that we are hopefully going to get an update, and we're starting to see some folks now coming up too. That's Rand Champion that you're looking at there with the Arkansas Department of Corrections. He will obviously lead this news conference and introduce everybody who was there. So let's go listen now to Rand Champion.
Did somebody else show up?
We're taking your piece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We just wanted to roll on it just in case, you know.
I see. Feel free to shoot cuts.
And can you walk cutaways?
Yeah.
Okay, we're still waiting to get the news
like
conference
I appreciate
started.
all y'all's patience.
Yeah, he's.
And if you've reached out and I have not responded, I apologize. Like, I'm trying to make sure we're hitting everybody, but it's
starting
been.
to think I did something.
It's not like
it's
I'm,
an effort
honestly,
in a
it's
town
nice,
this size to
the
try
first
to
time I've
get
been in fresh air
and to
in a while,
corral every law enforcement agency that
ready to
has
go?
been involved in this. Okay, here we go.
First things first, just appreciate everybody coming and covering this for us. Really understand you guys have a job to do, and a lot of what is going to hinge on us is help from y'all and getting this word out there. So appreciate all that. Again, we can provide a brief outline of where we are. And again, I can't really get into any specifics, but kind of where we are stand. Unfortunately, there's no new developments. We've passed the 72-hour mark from when Grant Hardin did escape. Since that time has started, there has been an ongoing collective effort with multiple agencies, state, federal, local, utilizing any and all resources that we can to track it down. Any and all leads that we are getting have been followed up on. Unfortunately, none of those have come to fruition yet, but we're hoping all it takes is that one lead that is credible that is going to lead to this. So again, the search is ongoing, and with that, I'm happy to take any questions you guys may have.
We heard that some of the local departments are being told to stand back. Is the search effort being scaled back?
It's not being scaled back at all. I think the issue that we're running into is having too many people in one place at one time. I know that a search area has expanded, and so at this point they may just be told to stay back until we have somewhere else, so there's not that much of a concentrated force in one spot.
Is it because you don't have any areas you're prioritizing?
I mean, there's a lot of different things we're following. One of the challenges that we have for this area is it is very, as you can see, it's very hilly, it's very rocky. There's a lot of places where it's very narrow to get in and it's very narrow to get out. And we've had a couple instances, I know, during this search where it's been hard we have too many people in one place and units are on top of each other trying to get in and out. It's kind of hampering it. So I think it's just trying to be very coordinated and making sure that we're spreading our resources where they need to be.
Can you talk about what some of those resources are that you're utilizing? Are you using drones, canines, helicopters?
Yeah, all of the above. We have, one of the nice things in the Department of Corrections, we have a very robust canine search team, and those are being utilized as much as we can. Drones are being utilized, aircraft. One of the hindrances we have had the last few days, you guys know, is we've had a lot of rain. It's been very wet, and rain hinders those type of searches. With our track dogs, the rain can affect, them being able to pick up that track. With the low clouds, it's hard to get the drones up as high as we need to. Helicopters are grounded with all that. So we're hoping that the weather kind of turns a little bit and we can utilize more of those.
We were able to get video of helicopters hovering in the area of the prison and some officers using binoculars to look in the area. Is some of the search concentrated still around the prison?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the attitude that we take until we have credible evidence that he is not in the area, we assume that he's probably still in the area. And so that's where it is. The north central Arkansas area is where the main source of the search is at this point. And a lot of that too is just double backing and double checking to make sure we're not missing anything in the immediate area where we know for sure he was. Just double checking that area to make sure there's not something we're missing.
Can we go back to Sunday and you can talk about, we all know that he was wearing some sort of makeshift outfit that looked like he was perhaps an employee of the detention facility. And then we also saw in the affidavit that somebody opened the door for him, presumably assuming he was an employee. Can you just walk us through what we know so far about how he was able to exit the facility?
Yeah, that is our assumption, is that, everything that he was wearing standard issue inside this facility. It is not there's no inmate uniform that looks like that. There's no officer uniform that looks like that. It very much and that's part of the challenge, is determining what exactly he was wearing and following up on those. Our understanding is that being he was former law enforcement, he tailored that to look like a law enforcement officer. We do have, with this being part of, facility, we do have law enforcement that comes in and out on a fairly regular basis, and that is our assumption that he did that to try and mimic a law enforcement officer. As far as the events leading up to that, that's still being looked over and considered and analyzed at this time, and so, we believe that was the intent, was to mimic a law enforcement uniform.
And can you speak to the employee that opened the door?
All I can say at this point is there are a number of investigations and questions being asked just to ascertain exactly what happened, and that's really all I can tell at this point.
What's supposed to be the protocol in the case that Priya is talking about? How are law enforcement officers supposed to leave the prison? Are they just supposed to say, hi, open the door?
There is supposed to be a verification of who it is. And so, that's one of the things that we're looking into, is where that lapse was, and it's making sure that doesn't happen again.
Can you rule out that he didn't have any help on the inside?
We're not ruling out anything at this point. That's part of that investigation and making sure that we have all those questions answered.
Any indication that he's had help since getting out?
Again, we're looking into that as well. We have we can't comment on that at this time.
Can you talk
Laura, did you?
about
Sorry.
layers of security that Morgan had to breach to get out of the prison? Was it one lapse or multiple failures?
That's part of what we're looking into as well. We have a pretty good idea of the route that he took and kind of some of those circumstances, but part of that investigation is looking into exactly what happened during that time frame and what, if any, lapses happened.
Have there been any?
Sorry.
Have there been any credible sightings in the last 24 hours?
None to my knowledge. Just a lot of tips, but none of those have come to fruition at this point.
How confident are you that he's still in the north central Arkansas area?
Based on the information that we have and the experience of our teams, they feel fairly confident that he is still fairly close to this region. We're not going to rule anything out at this point, obviously, because all it takes is one vehicle to hop in and you can be anywhere. But as of this time, they feel very confident he is still in the area.
Do you feel like you have a good perimeter set up that if he were to try to escape this area, that he could be caught?
Sure, we're always adjusting that and seeing if we need to. It has expanded over the last 72 hours, but with all the resources and the different agencies that we have, they feel confident that the perimeter we have right now is wide enough to make sure that we can try and track him down.
Can you expand on what you just said about the search area expanding? What does that actually mean?
Just obviously, as time goes on and somebody's on foot, they can cover a lot more ground. And so just making sure, looking at possible, roads, possible, following streams, following whatever maneuvers people would take, just trying to guess and ascertain, how far somebody could travel in a certain amount of time, and just making sure that we're covering that amount of distance and that he's not slipping by.
Are you looking at nearby states? Sorry. No.
I can't speak to how many, but I know we have been in contact with neighboring states as we normally do in these situations. Obviously, the proximity to Missouri and his knowledge, and he grew up close to the Missouri border, so obviously that is a priority as well.
Can you talk about the timeline? How quickly were you guys able to detect that he had left the facility?
That's still something we're looking into as well. From our best estimate, it was less than 30 minutes before we knew that he was gone.
And are you in contact with his family members? Is there any evidence that he could potentially be trying to communicate with them or go back there?
They have been notified, and law enforcement in that area knows that that is a high priority, and from what we understand, they are being closely monitored.
What can you tell us about his time as an inmate? Was he well behaved?
I mean, it's hard to define what is, we've been asked what is a model inmate, and it's hard to define that. All I can say, if you look at his record, he had no major disciplinary actions. He had people on the inside that he had a job, and again, there were no serious issues that would cause a concern outside of, him just being an inmate.
You talked about the terrain and the weather, but can you also just expand a little bit on his background as a law enforcement officer and a corrections officer, if I'm not mistaken, and how that presents a unique set of challenges in this manhunt?
Sure. I mean, obviously, if you have a law enforcement background, you've had specialized training, you've had a familiarity of the tactics that are going to be used. He's not necessarily from this area, but he did grow up in Northwest Arkansas, which has some terrain similar to this. There's a lot of caves around here. There's a lot of hills, and so understanding that he may have that sort of familiarity provides a challenge.
What kind of threat does he pose to people in this area and law enforcement searching for him?
I mean, it's hard to tell. It's obviously the reason he was in prison is he has a violent background, and so at this point we don't want to take any chances. Anyone who escapes, we have to assume to be dangerous, to be assumed, don't approach them, and so at this point, that is how we're approaching this.
And can you describe kind of the area you're looking? Are there cabins? Are there what kind of caves? What does the area look like for searchers?
I mean, there's anyone who knows this area. There's everything. There's caves. There's barns. There's abandoned cars. There's abandoned sheds. There's residences. There are a number of. And again, it's not a flat open area. There's a lot to cover, and there's a lot to look into, and making sure that is being covered and doing due diligence is a big priority.
Any changes to the alerts sent out to the schools and the community at large here?
Not at this time that I'm aware of.
And are you worried that, given the length of his sentence and the severity of the crimes that he's been convicted of, that potentially he would be brazen enough to commit another crime?
I mean, that's always a concern. The thing that you hear a lot is somebody who has the sentence that he has, kind of the common mantra is he has nothing to lose at this point. So, I mean, in answer to that question as well, we have to assume this to be a very dangerous individual.
How confident are you that relatives and loved ones are not helping him at this point?
Again, that's something we're looking into and investigating. All we can say, we have been in contact with his immediate family, and those are being monitored.
Are you considering any type of reward for information?
Those are also in discussions as well.
Can you give us an estimate of how many personnel are on the ground? We know in the New Orleans manhunt there was about 200 people that are still searching for those guys. Obviously there's 10 inmates that ran away.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of resources you guys have, but just an estimation, approximation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give an estimate to how many people. All I can tell, and one of the things that we do want to do is thank all of the agencies that have been assisting with this, giving up their time, giving up the resources. I mean, we're talking federal agencies, state agencies, local agencies, Department of Corrections, Arkansas State Police, the FBI, U.S. Marshals, Game and Fish, Izard County, Stone County, all of the local. There have been a lot of people that have been coming in and out and giving of their time to help with this search.
Did you say that's hundreds?
Over hundreds would be a good, yeah. So
What's the cost been like for the search?
that I couldn't answer. So.
You said there's been no credible sightings, but has there been any evidence found that he's still in the area? I mean, any footprint,
No.
trace?
There have been a lot of tips and leads that we've looked into, but nothing super credible at this point.
There was was a surveillance photo released that the timestamp had 2:58, and you guys released that he was released at, or he escaped at 3:40. Can you explain the disparity in that?
Yeah, I mean, just the initial reports we received was around 3:40. Again, it's, in the course of, making those reports, times can vary, but so the original estimate that we gave was 3:40, but once we were able to sit down and look at the surveillance video, it was confirmed it was approximately 2:55 is when he escaped.
The investigation that's happening around how he escaped and whether anybody helped him, is that an internal investigation that's happening in terms of the sheriff's office, or is this a DOC investigation as well?
There's a lot of different agencies that are helping with that investigation.
Who's the lead on the search?
As of right now, it's the Department of Corrections.
Is he assumed to be wearing the same outfit he escaped in?
Until we have not found that outfit, and so until we find evidence that he is, I mean, we're assuming that. We don't know if he had what he had underneath it. We've been able to, acquire since then. All we know, the last time we saw him is that's what he was wearing. We have not found that uniform yet.
How many checkpoints are there?
I can't speak to that now. I know at one point we had close to 10 around this area. I'm not sure exactly what it is at the moment.
It's one thing for him to get to the Sally Port and have someone open the gate. How did he get from his cell, walk through the area, get to the doors? I mean, any information you can give about that movement?
Yeah, it's still part of that ongoing investigation. We're trying to figure out how what led up to that.
How long are you guys going to continue?
That's until we feel it's no longer necessary. So.
I mean, have you searched his cell to see if the lock was broken? Or
I mean, we have searched through all of his personal items as well, trying to get any idea, any clues, any information that can help us lead to where he was going.
Is it normal for a convicted murderer in Arkansas to be in a medium security facility and not a maximum one?
All that goes to when somebody enters the department system, they're given, their classification and their initial assessment. And based on what he was assessed is the reason he was sent here. There are parts of North Central that do have a maximum area, but the prison itself is labeled as a medium security.
How are we sure that the uniform he was wearing was homemade if you guys don't have it in your possession?
Just again, because there's nothing inside the facility that looks like that. It had to have been either homemade or brought in somehow, or again, once we know exactly what it is that he was wearing, that will help us ascertain that as well.
Do you all have surveillance video tracking his movements before he went out through the Sally Port?
We have surveillance videos all around the unit, and that's part of the internal investigation that we're looking
Do you
into
guys
right
know
now.
what his movements were like prior to going through the Sally Port?
We have a fairly good idea, yes.
What was the last video you have of him then?
The last video we have is the surveillance video of him leaving the facility.
Has
Any
anyone
chance
been
any of that is going to be released to us?
I mean, probably once the investigation's done.
Has anyone been suspended as part of this investigation at the jail? Or
Not that I'm aware of.
Have there been any security concerns prior to this jailbreak? I mean, again, not to compare it to New
Yeah.
Orleans, but the sheriff down there had a lot of issues with defective blocks and not enough staffing. Had there been any prior concerns or issues?
None that I know of. As of our last report, North Central only had 3 security vacancies, and this typically tends to be one of our most populated facilities as far as officers.
When was your last escape here at this facility?
This facility, I'm not 100% sure. The last one I know in the department was the Samuel Hartman back in, I believe, 2021.
Without giving away the secrets, can you talk more about how you've had to switch up the way you search for him, because he knows the tricks of the trade?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of the details about how we've been doing that. All I know is we have some very experienced people that there's constant briefings throughout the day talking about, what's working, what's not working, where should we check. All I can speak, there have been a lot of different varieties and a lot of different resources used to try and help with this search.
And you're getting tips from all over the state. Does that include the crimes that were committed in Northwest Arkansas?
All over the state, yes, sir.
And as this search stretches into multiple days, are you still working around the clock, or are they?
No,
breaking for the night?
we're still working around the clock. We're working on shifts that are coming in, and I mean it'll be around the clock until further notice.
Any final comments on just what appears to be a failure here?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's something that we hope never happens again, and that's part of what we want to make sure is that we're reviewing what did happen and making those adjustments never happen again. Again, our biggest thing is we just want to thank all of the local law enforcement that is helping with this search, understanding that they're putting their resources, their people at risk to help bring this. And we're hoping this comes to a quick and peaceful conclusion.
Has DOC failed the public and the victims in this case?
I can't answer that at this point.
Are you in touch with the family members of the victims? Are you providing extra security for them during this time?
I can't speak to that. I know they've been notified. I know the law enforcement in that area has been notified. And so I haven't been out there, so I don't really know exactly what they're doing, but they have been notified.
We spoke to some of the public here, and they're not scared. Can you talk about the hardness of the people here and maybe give a word of caution?
I mean, credit to them. Those of you that are from Arkansas know how Arkansans are. I think the people around here they've been great. They've been sharing a lot of tips. They have really kind of helped, been on the lookout. And also a credit to them. A lot of them have been going to these checkpoints, giving our officers food, giving them water. Just really been a good. And again, that is just what we would ask again is this area, especially wherever, please be cognizant, please be aware. Be alert of your surroundings. If something seems out of place, if something seems, a little off, please let us know and let's check that out. So.
And the federal agencies, you said they're cooperating with state and local. Does that include the FBI?
Yes, sir. So, all right.
We appreciate
it. Like I said, I wish there was more updates I could give you.
You've given us a lot as well. Thank you. So nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
And sorry to blow.
All right, Rand Champion finishing up a lot of information, maybe not a lot of new information. They have expanded the search away from that area, at least expanded out to north into Missouri and other parts of Arkansas, and getting a lot of tips. Any tip coming in is being investigated thoroughly before it's dismissed. Also was able to talk just briefly about how he escaped and some of the mistakes that were made there at the prison in Calico Rock, and in the effort to try to keep that from happening again. Would not go into exact detail as to how Hardin got through the Sally Port and through different levels of security to get out. And you see here wearing that uniform that supposedly he made inside the prison, because it did not match any other uniform that was either worn by an officer or worn by security staff there or by anybody else within that prison. And then the question begs is how was he able to get that? Champion would not address that as well, other than to say that an internal investigation is underway as to how this was able to happen, and that it will to try to keep it from happening again. Lauren Spencer is in Calico Rock, as she has been throughout the entire week. We'll hear from her live on your 5 News at 4, 5, and 6. In fact, the 4 o'clock coming up in about 30 minutes over on Channel 5. We thank you for joining us. We'll have much more on this news conference itself and other aspects of this search coming up in 30 minutes on your 5 News First at 4, also at 5 and 6. We will see you then. Thanks for joining us.